Welcome to Zunda Channel. My name is Jackson. Zunda is a YouTube channel where our guests share their success experiences, what we call the Zunda moment. If you have achieved academic success, professional success, business success, charity, or you have a successful marriage, and as a couple, you're willing to share your success journey with us, please send us an email at zundachannel@gmail.com. zundachannel@gmail.com. We believe your success story is so powerful and can help somebody, particularly young people who we work with. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that we can notify you. Right on the below here, there's a button. Click on it, please, or tap on it so that we can notify you when our new videos are available. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for today's guests. Welcome to Zunda Channel. My name is Jackson, and today we are speaking with Mr. Ocean Simpande, who is an IT professional, and he has been in the field for quite a long time. Mr. Simpande, welcome to our program for today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been a struggle for the past few days trying to get things work around, but at least now we are able to proceed with our interview, yes. So, Mr. Simpande, could you briefly tell me about your childhood?
Well, my childhood, I have many memories, obviously, as everybody else. Growing up in a very nice family.
Mm-hmm.
Many childhood memories for me probably is the unity that we had as a family, because we used to go to church every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are really some of my memories, is gathering around, going to church, coming back and having a good meal with the whole family. So I think it was really centered around my family. And that, of course, was up to my primary school days, because from there, then I went to secondary school, into a boarding school. So that's another story.
Okay. Which secondary school did you go to, by the way?
Well, this is in Zambia, so I went to Canisius Secondary School.
Okay.
Which is somewhere in the southern province.
Right. Okay, that's very good.
Yeah.
Now, I can see you've been in IT for quite a long time. How did you get in? And I know you went to university.
Yes.
What did you read at university, and at what level did you achieve your academic qualification?
Naturally, starting with my secondary school days,
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to be a little bit, better than average in mathematics.
Okay.
And that just came out naturally. It's not something that obviously I developed. And as a result, when I saw that my results in maths were rather good,
Mm-hmm.
I decided that probably university I should go and read maths as well.
Right.
And that's what I did. I graduated in mathematics.
All right. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So you did the mathematics. How did you come around to IT then?
Yes. You see, in mathematics has got a lot of dimensions, a lot of fields in it. So as in the mathematical sciences department, when you get to the second year level, you start studying things like, linear programming. These are mathematics things.
Yeah.
And the program that we were using a software called Fortran, which is obviously something too old maybe for many people.
Mm-hmm.
So we were solving equations using Fortran. And that's when I started seeing that, so there is a way to automate, handwritten solutions in mathematics. Yeah. And actually I developed an interest out of that, such that, programming really started with my Fortran days, such that when I graduated, the first job that came around was to do with programming. And what they were looking for in those days was anybody who graduated with mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
To go into computers, programming, and all the like, mathematics was actually a requirement,
Right.
which maybe these days is not. And
Mm-hmm.
so I easily went into that. And of course, then I was trained on the job, but with my Fortran programming background,
Mm-hmm.
it was easy to pick up, the COBOL programming and the other languages that were on offer. So I did a lot of in-house training
Right.
with the company.
Right. Okay. That was good. Right. Now, I know from what you've just explained, the inclination came from maths, that led you to programming and stuff, So, what were the area responsibilities in your role when you got into programming, particularly at your early stage after your university level in mathematics?
Yeah, so at the early stage, obviously, when you join a company, you're kind of like a trainee. They train you into programming, the actual systems. We were using the mainframes, in those days, big machines and all those things. So we had to learn the trade of, backups using tapes and things like that. So I started from, before doing the actual programming, I started from kind of like a systems administrator person. And we had Unix as our operating system. Yeah. So I was helping out actually installing, the hardware around the company.
Right.
And also helping the users to log in and all those things. And then gradually I went into programming using COBOL.
Right.
The COBOL language, that was a business language that was used those days.
Yeah.
But then systems analysis comes up as well. For you to be able to write a program, you have to get the requirements from the user. And as a result, you have to know something about business analysis and system analysis so that you can bridge that gap between the user and the system itself. Right. And so that's another training that I did in-house, is systems analysis.
Right.
Yeah. And so from there, really, then the whole thing developed into something, much more. So as I said, we started writing programs in COBOL, but of course from COBOL then we went to fourth generation languages, whereby you don't really write the actual code. The system helps you in some way to do the underlying code. Right. And of course now we have all these visual languages that we use.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know IT is a fast-paced profession. So what major changes have you been faced with, over the last couple of years, that has seen your development from where you were, when you started to where you are now over the years? What major changes have you seen or have you faced?
And I think I have obviously mentioned, correctly to say that there's so much change in IT. And if one tries to catch up and, you will never do anything, you'll always be studying. So there are times when you just say, no, let me just concentrate on doing what I know best. So for example, for me, I went more into the Microsoft platform. Right. And therefore I was able to zero in mostly on the SQL Server environment, business intelligence reporting. So I've used that for quite a long time. But then in the last few years, things we knew very well, like SQL Server reporting services, it's kind of being overtaken by another kid on the block, but it's from Microsoft, called Power BI.
Yeah.
And so in my case, I think I didn't have much choice, but actually to go into Power BI as well, because that's what the systems demanded, really, that they wanted to see visuals, and it's a little bit difficult to do in some of these older programs. So Power BI, I had to learn it on the job myself, on the internet and things like that. So that has been quite a challenge, but I think I am quite settled okay with it now.
Yeah.
But I'm sure very soon something else will come up, and we have to keep running. There's no time to slow down at all.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Fast paced actually.
Very much.
All facets actually are just challenging because it's like chasing actually a whirlwind. That's how we.
Okay, I mean.
Yeah, that's
Very
how
true.
that's how we live in IT. So what is the greatest challenge you have been faced over in your profession?
I think I think that's really what we've just talked about, in terms of catching up with the technology. That I think is what has kept me, up to date. Is really just trying to keep abreast of where we are now. And of course, the industry is very demanding as well.
Yeah.
They want to use the technology. That is, now we are on the cloud.
Yeah.
Doing all kinds of things. The servers that we used to have in-house have all moved out. They are based in the cloud. So all that kind of technology, I think, to some of us who grew up in industry working with,
On
a
site.
mainframe on site.
Yeah.
Now talking to other people that you have never met on the cloud, asking questions, and so it is something that somebody has to get used to.
Yeah. Now, looking at you, you are a very successful IT professional in your field.
Well, if, I don't know about that, but
What are the most important lessons you have learned in life?
I think if I have to really say things that kept me, other than just keeping abreast of the technology itself, and learning the industry. The most important thing is that when you join a company, there are business rules. How the business operates.
Yeah.
As an IT person, sometimes we get bogged down to the technicalities of, the hard disks and the motherboards and things like that, and we forget about the business itself.
Yeah.
So if I walk into, let's say, an insurance company, I really need to know something about insurance. Even as an IT person, that way you will be able to serve your customers. And normally, as an IT person, our customers are internal employees.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to serve them better. Because if I'm designing a system, if I'm writing a KPI, for somebody, and I have got no clue what
the business they run.
Yes, what the business means and what all these abbreviations stand for.
Yeah.
It will take me longer, so it's important to learn the business rules. So that's what I would really say to somebody entering this profession, is that be willing to adapt to the business and learn how the business operates.
Yeah.
And especially if you become a contractor and you are moving from one place to another, then it will be difficult, of course, but you have to learn.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why many people stay in one organization for a long time. I don't know. It's because maybe once you know the environment, once you know the business, then you are settled, and it's just business as usual.
Yeah. Okay. Though I mean, it's got its own disadvantage as well, because
of course.
The learning curve is a bit limited once you stick to one profession. Well, one employer, Yeah, but anyway, I know many people do the contracting. They are okay moving up and down from
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you associate with any religion or spiritual aspect of spiritual practices that has actually propelled your who you are today?
Yes, I think as I mentioned right at the beginning, is that I was brought up in a Christian home, and therefore I never knew anything else.
Mm.
My father, my mother, they took us to church as little kids, and we have grown up to be what we are now, doing the same as well to our children, taking them to church,
Right.
and the same thing. So yes, I definitely, I'm part of the Christian fellowship.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, your success or who you are today, say on a 1 to 10, on what level could you put your success based on, from your spiritual, influenced by your spiritual, aspect of it?
Oh, I think that would be very difficult to put a value, to somebody's Christianity as to whether. But I would think that without maybe giving an actual number, I think the major component of my upbringing had a lot to do with probably who I am now,
right?
Even both academically and maybe socially, because as I said, if you are a family unit and you are always working together, you are going to church, for example, together, going on family outings together, you develop that idea of teamwork. And you actually then apply it even in industry. When you go to industry, you have this idea of feeling good when you are, working with other people. Other people are supporting you, just like, your brother or your sister supports you. And you're also supporting somebody else the same way you would support, your sibling and things like that. So that's why I'm saying really, the whole thing is really intertwined. How I have, grown up. In industry, I'm very happy to work with a lot of different people, different nationalities, and it's easy to adapt because it's the same thing when you go to a church environment. There are so many nationalities there. So many different people there, and you have to get on with them. Exactly. And you apply that same principle into the working environment as well. So I would think really these things go hand in hand. Your social aspect and also your religion, your religious aspect as well.
Right. Okay. That's good. That's good. So how would you imagine your life would have been if you didn't actually pick up your current profession?
I don't know. Obviously, I wouldn't know what it would have been. It would be nice to imagine, sometimes what something would have been. But as a little boy, you see, our house was not very far from the rail line. And therefore, we could hear the train approaching, a lot of times. And we used to run to somewhere near the rail line and wave to the driver, the train driver. And growing up, I always used to imagine what it's like to drive a train. And as a result, I really had that idea of wanting to be a train driver. And then my uncle talked to me. He says, "Oh, so what do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I think I want to be a train driver." He says, "Oh, very good. But you see, for you to be able, to be a train driver, you need to know some mechanics." Engineering, things like that. And I said, "Oh, so there's something called engineering." And right from the onset, then I made up my mind, I want to be an engineer, so that I can make things, or repair things. I was told the cars can be made, and it can be assembled. So I said, "Oh, no, this is just too good." So, and I think that's why I ended up into programming. You see, programming is all about making things that don't exist.
Exactly,
Somebody says, "I want a program that does A, B, C, D." It means that program doesn't exist. Or if it does exist, it doesn't meet their actual needs. And therefore, you create something from scratch. Or using some components, you assemble. Just like assembling a car. You have different parts of a car and you assemble it into a moving car. So similarly, into writing a program, you get this, you get that, and in the end, you write a program that meets somebody's needs, and you publish it and are able to use it. So that is still engineering, and I guess that's why it's called software engineering after all.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's very good. That's very good. So now, if you are to give, an inside information to, to an outsider or a young man actually who is trying to get into the field of, programming, what would that be?
Well, to start with, obviously qualifications are very important.
Mm-hmm.
Don't as a young person, don't quit school and say that I want to go in industry straight away. It is very important. I mean, I wouldn't have known that there is much or there's anything called programming if I didn't do Fortran programming quite at doing my mathematics degree.
Mm-hmm.
So you will pick things as you move along, especially if you go to university.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you succeed in that.
Exactly.
But the good thing about any other profession, including IT, is that you can qualify in almost any subject.
Mm-hmm.
So just make sure that you have a solid, qualification. Doesn't matter normally what it is. And then after you get that, then you can adapt into almost anything else. For example, these days what they do is that you can maybe qualify as with a Bachelor of Arts, maybe even doing maybe history, as a history major. There are some conversion courses that you can do after you have graduated. For you to enter that conversion course, the requirement is that you must have a degree.
Yeah.
So you can go into a conversion course, do some IT for 1 year, and then that's it. And so a lot of people that I've worked with never did IT as their undergraduate at their undergraduate level.
Undergrad, yes. Okay.
But they did a conversion course, or they even went into these specialist qualifications that now exist. You can go into that and become a specialist in something. So training always is very important.
Yeah, that's good. I hope young people, you are listening. Mr. Simpande, he's been one of the people who inspired me actually to get into IT as well over, about 17, 18 years ago.
That's a long time, isn't it?
Yes. So I came into IT because of, the success I saw from this man, so I really do appreciate him. So, Mr. Simpande, what is your passion and how did you get to with it?
And just before I go into that, just to recap what you just said, it is very important. Normally, as young people, we don't like advice. When somebody tries to give you an advice to say, why don't you do A, B, C, D? Somehow, because you've learned from your peers, from your friends, you've seen what they're doing, you normally don't want to listen to any other advice. You say, no, I know what I want. I'm not an adult. It is always very important to listen to somebody, especially somebody who has got an experience in something. And if they say that, no, I've gone through that and don't make the same mistakes, it's very important normally to try and, abide by some of those advice that you get from people. Now, in terms of my passion, really, let's say, I guess you're talking about maybe hobbies, in this case. My major hobby, I guess, is photography. It's something that I picked up quite a long time ago. The first time, I think way back in secondary school, we used to take photos, and I just hoped one day I would have my own camera, and shoot photos and videos and things like that. Right. And that's what I've been doing probably as long as I can remember, is actually photography and now videography, of course.
Yeah. Right. Okay. No, that's good. That's good. So do you do this one on commercial levels, just a hobby,
No, it's purely a hobby. Though sometimes, people want to offer me a payment, of some sort. But then mostly I really just do it as a hobby. Of course, if somebody asks me to go drive 100 miles to go and cover their event, then probably they can meet my costs, my travel costs. And that's really, but otherwise I just normally do it as purely a hobby, just something to keep me, entertained or things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. I think we are now coming to the end of our interview with Mr. Ocean Simpande. Do you have any final words that you would want to give? Advice to the young people in various aspects of the, not only in IT or just anything in terms of how they need to probably behave themselves in order to be successful in life.
Yeah, I think just to cover it, just to round it up, as I have been mentioning bits and bits, it's really family unit to start with. It's quite important to have people close to you that you can always go back to in times of need. We have heard of families that have totally broken up and they don't talk to each other. That is not something that probably one should think about. There must be somebody or people that you can always go back to. And then outside your family unit, there is also the church family. So if you or your social network that you have, but if you're a religious person, your church family is very important as well.
Yeah.
Because you have a common interest. And when you have a common interest, it's just like a project team. If you are in a project team in industry, you are all working towards the same goal. And as a result, your mindset is quite united. And therefore, when you associate with people who have the same principles as yourself, then that is quite very useful. So I've talked about maybe your families or maybe the religious associations that you have. Then, of course, in your company, there are ground rules whenever you join a company. That's the first thing you sign a document as what you are how you are going to behave and what you are going to do. It is always very important, to keep abreast of the technology, but also at the same time, make sure that you do unto others what you would have them do to you. So that's normally my principle, really. There are times when you want to say something nasty to somebody, and then you think to yourself, what if that somebody says the same thing to you? How would I feel? So in that case, then you say, no, then this is not a good thing to say. So all those principles, you just apply them to yourself. And once you zero in on a particular career, I think stick to it. I know sometimes people say the grass looks greener on the other side. So you have something, and when you see somebody else doing something successfully, say, oh no, I think I want to pursue that. You don't know what they have gone through to get to that point. So, if you find something that you are passionate about, then just do the best you can, and people will be happy, as long as you're always keeping your promises and delivering on your promises.
Yeah. Okay. There you are. Thank you very much, Mr. Simpande, for joining us today. We really appreciate taking time. I know you're a busy man, and we hope this information you've shared with us today will go a long way to help the young people trying to get into, either in IT or in various professions. Otherwise, thank you so much again for joining us, and goodbye for now.
No, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.